Hello, Serge here from the backyard driving range. Got that bullseye good. It popped back almost over my head. All right, got a question here that came into the site, and it's from Phil Rothley, and he says, Jim McLean recently released a book called The Complete Hogan. What are the similarities between the Hogan swing and a peak performance golf swing? Okay, Phil, I guess I'll just get to the point real quick. Not very many. All right? But let me start off by at least saying some comments about Mr. Hogan Swing. It obviously worked for him. And I think in many cases, at least from my studies of the Hogan Swing and talking to people who had seen Hogan play, I never got to see him play live, or in person, shall we say. But I did get, I have looked at a lot of videos and studied a lot of picture sequences of him, and I think I can unequivocally say that many times when you see these things in magazines and they have professionals talking about what they see at the different sequences, like what I see here and here and here and up there and all the way to the finish. Many times, if you really look at what they're talking about, what they're saying isn't what's happening there. All right, and so I think they just get into many times at certain positions they just start spilling out some basic answers or basic comments. And so I came to the conclusion that the thing with Hogan, everybody I talked to about the swing confirmed a number of things that I believe. For example, Hogan had two swings. When he first started out playing, he lived in the left woods, Duck Hook City. His Duck Hook was his killer, and back then he originally had a very wide stance. And he took a monster swing, and he turned tremendously, and the club came way down here. All right, sort of like where John Daly is. From there, he had to work so hard to pull it up, to get it up and up. It pulled his body backwards. So when he came into impact, he was in here, very hanging back, and behind the ball. And when you stand in here, the problem you have is that your body's hung back there and it's slowing down. The body's slowing down, and you get to a situation where the left arm and the right arm are separated by the width of your shoulders, and so therefore your back arm, if it's getting hung back here, it can only go this far. So if your arm can only go that far, look what's happening to my forward arm. It starts to break down. So that's one of the reasons why that I figured out the concept of swing up, because the only way swing up and stand up is that this arm, your body has to eventually, as it hits the ball, it has to keep turning to the target so that these two arms can stay relatively the same level. And in fact, the lower arm has to outrun it because it's got farther to go. It's lower on the club. It's got farther to go to be able to come up and stand up. And so that's how we pull out of the shot and get rid of the pull hooks and the duck hooks. So Mr. Hogan used to hang back here. So he figured out that he had to figure out. And I think he did figure out that the problem was hanging back. So what he created, which is where it really separates the Serge swing now, is that he really did a number of things we do, but he did them from another direction, and it doesn't work for most other people. And then I'll explain why it doesn't work. All right? What he did was he narrowed his stance up a lot. We like a narrower stance. He took his back foot, turned it square to the target, and maybe sometimes even a little bit inside. And then he took his back knee and he pressed it inward. And when he took his stance, the whole concept was he wanted you to feel that as you made your turn into the right leg, turn into. Remember, I say turn onto. He said turn into your right leg and feel the torque build up on the inside of your right leg here. And so when you do that, and most people have trouble, Hogan didn't. And here's the issue we have here. When I started studying his swing and I came up with a lot of answers, I called Dr. Armstrong one night. That's my orthopedic surgeon I've been studying with since about 1983, somewhere in there. And I said, Doc, everything I look at Mr. Hogan's swing, especially when he did his transformation where he narrowed his stance, turned his foot in, cocked his knee in, and turns against his right leg, I think everything he did was to control his tendency to overturn, overswing, tilt forward, and then have to come backwards a little bit, or even if he didn't tilt forward, he had so far to pull back, he got hung up back here. So when he did all this, it cut down his turn, cut down his swing to dead parallel. When he came into impact, he was more vertical, right in line as we do, as we're right here, and then he just turned through the ball and finished up there. They got rid of his hook. So he did a lot of things we did, but the big issue is this right foot in and the right leg stretched in here. He was supple and flexible, extremely supple and flexible, and that cut him down. Most people, most golfers who do that, 99% plus of the golfing population, when you do what he did, it cuts your turn down. You try to force a turn, it causes big reverse tilts in many people, and it causes, and when you go forward, then you got to come backwards, or you stay forward and move ahead. And in the case of, if you're not as supple and flexible as him, you're building up extreme torque and tension on your body. So I called Dr. Armstrong, as I said, and I said, Doc, I think everything that Mr. Hogan did with that, especially with that right foot straight and the knee in, the back knee in, was designed to constrict and restrict his tendency to overturn, overswing, overtwist his body, and give and stay more centered, so he could be more centered and tall at impact and stand up quicker in the finish. And he said he agreed with me. And I said, well, I think in the world of human beings, Mr. Hogan is obviously extremely supple and flexible. What do you think he is, like 1 in 50,000? And he said, no, Don, not even close. I said, 100? Not even close. 250? Keep going. 500? Keep going. He took me up to 1 in 5 million. 1 in 5 million. And yet, Mr. Hogan's, as great a player as he was and as pure ball striker as he was, that garnered the interest of the world and the fascination of golfers and teachers to teach us stuff. But the point is if you can't do the swing the way he did it, and the only way you could do that is to be extraordinarily supple and flexible, very likely double jointed and whatever. If you don't have that suppleness and flexibility and the other attributes that he might have had to be able to do that swing and not break down and get pushed all over the place, if you don't have those attributes, you can't do it. And it's obvious that he was so flexible, because did you ever hear anything about Hogan having to take time off to recuperate his back or whatever? No, and he loved to practice. He hit tons and tons of golf balls, and didn't limp off the range and didn't have to go get his back worked on. And they didn't have trailers out there to go in and get stretched out every day before or after the round. He could do it because he was supple and flexible. John Daly's extraordinarily supple and flexible. It's obvious Payne Stewart was very supple and flexible. To have that long swing and still stay centered and get the club from up here and back to the ball, because that they could get there with that long swing way past parallel. And there's still some very very supple and flexible people that way. Tiger Woods is very supple and flexible, but yet he's got those knee problems, and I wouldn't doubt he might have back problems. But the key is why? Because he's using his body in a way it's not designed to move, and the parts that he's using it, snapping that left knee, locking it, is what hurt his knee. But so, even the young golfers out there, I've had kids as young as 12 years old come to my tee, and they've already been to rehab with a PT to help get the stress and strain out of their back and the pain that they've had. So the key to Hogan's swing is, yes, he was a great ball striker. Yes, there's some very unique things about it, especially that foot in that, and there's a few other things we can talk about, but this is the main thing Mr. Hogan is big on. And going back to my age, I'm 62 right now, so Mr. Hogan, his swing was really prevalently taught in the 70s and 80s, and even to this day, you see so many golfers standing up to the ball like this, and they're braced into that knee, and they swing into that knee, and the knee straightens, or they come back and it straightens back this way, or straightens and pushes them forward. So if you don't have a suppleness and flexibility, you can't set up like Mr. Hogan, and you can't swing like Mr. Hogan. That's no different than if you can't jump way over the net, you couldn't play basketball like Michael Jordan and Julius Erving and some of the other guys that could get up there. So if you can't do that, you can't play like him. It doesn't mean you can't be a great player. But the thing here is the peak performance golf swing. Everybody can swing this way, because it is 100% based on physics and physiology, and we're using our body the way it's designed, the 3/4 limited turn swing to a straight up tee finish square to the target. And that's the key. So Mr. Hogan's swing was great, but it was good for Mr. Hogan, and it's just about not any good for almost, I would say, 99% of the golfing population. As I think Dr. Armstrong really reiterated that when he told me Mr. Hogan was 1 in like 500,000, just like I think, and he also put Tiger Woods in that same category. So if you're trying to swing like Tiger, and if you don't have all his attributes in terms of his being really supple, flexible, and strong, you probably can't do that either. But the surge swing is doable for everybody from any age, from youngsters to people in the 90s or 100 years old. They can still keep swinging and playing, and it's good for whatever your sex is. It doesn't care about what your sex, your race, your religion, and your national origin. It works for everybody as long as you are a human being. And with that, we'll close with a peak performance golf swing, 3/4 limited turn swing, stand up to a tee finish. bullseye. Boy, that bullseye's hot today. Well, that's it for the search for today on the Peak Performance Golf Swing, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.